So my last for today PhD student is Nrunahar Akhter, who will tell you about HRT.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the topic of my today's talk is hormone replacement therapy and its effects on morbidity and longevity of women. So the work presented here are my own. So in my talk, first I will give a brief description of hormone replacement therapy. I will say about study design and patient selection criteria. I will show the distribution of the study population. Then I will show the hazards of number of selected medical conditions that follow up. And I will discuss about complete case analysis. And finally, I will show my results. So first, I would like to talk a bit about menopause. So menopause is the time in a woman's life when her menstrual cycle completely stops, as ovaries stop producing the female sex hormone, estrogen and progesterone. The average age of menopause is 51 years, but it doesn't happen overnight. The transition of menopause is followed by perimenopausal stage, when the level of estrogen and progesterone declines gradually, and after a series of irregular periods, eventually it ends at menopause. After the cessation of menstruation, it's called the postmenopausal stage in a woman's life. So from perimenopausal stage, most women suffer from intolerable menopausal symptoms such as hot flushes, night sweating, mood swings, sleep disturbances, with various other symptoms which makes them vulnerable to do their daily works effectively. The loss of these hormones also increase the risk of developing osteoporosis, heart disease, and cardiovascular disease in postmenopausal women. So hormone replacement therapy, HRT, has been used for more than 60 years to relieve women from these troublesome menopausal symptoms. HRT contains female sex hormone, estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen first extracted from the urine of a pregnant mare, but these days, bioidentical hormones also available along with natural extraction. HRT was first available in the United Kingdom in 1965. The way of administration of HRT are mainly orally by tablets, but there are other ways of administration like transdermal patches, injections, gels, and ointments. So in our study design, our cases are patients of age 46 years and above who received any kind of oral and transdermal HRT. We matched our control by year of birth and general practice. We excluded patients with all kinds of cancer, acute myocardial infarction, serious heart failure, stroke, chronic kidney disease stage 3 to 5, dementia, oophorectomy before 45, premature ovarian insufficiency, premature menopause, and surgical menopause. Our primary outcome of interest is all-cause mortality, and secondary outcomes are osteoporosis, dementia, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and hormonal cancers we are also interested in. So our follow-up period between 1984 to 2017, and our working data consists of 112,354 cases who are matched with 245,320 controls. So this slide shows the age distribution at first HRT prescription and death experiences at follow-up. The left panel shows the proportion of cases and controls at first HRT prescription by age group. The yellow one for cases and green one for controls. So we see that majority of women started HRT between 46 to 55 years of age. The number of first HRT prescription decreased as age increased. The right plot shows the death experiences in cases and controls at follow-up, and we observed that in all age category, controls died more than cases, except the age group 46 to 50. So from a literature review on HRT, we found that HRT has both good and adverse impact. For example, some research shows that HRT is good for osteoporosis, dementia, but some other research also shows that HRT is bad for, bad for breast cancer and endometrial cancer. So we fit unadjusted Cox proportional hazard regression model for a number of selected conditions patients develop at follow-up. So these results from our unadjusted analysis. So we observed that HRT users develop less decreased risks of getting type 2 diabetes and heart failure, but increased risks of getting breast cancer, peripheral vascular disease, and TI stroke. And in some cases, these are not significant, like for myocardial infarction, we find that different hazard for different age group. For example, the younger age group has the higher risk, but as the HRT increased, then the risk decreased. So we also apply the Kaplan-Meier analysis techniques to find the incidence of breast cancer at follow-up. So there are 4 plots for 4 different age groups, from 46 to 50, 51 to 55, 56 to 60, and 61 to 65. The green line are for the non-user, and yellow one for estrogen only, and the red one for combined HRT. So we see that in all age category, HRT users have developed more breast cancer than non-user. And in terms of HRT type, combined HRT users are getting even more breast cancer than estrogen only. So here we list the coverage which we use for survival module of all-cause mortality. So in socioeconomic status, we use Townsend score. In lifestyle variable, we took smoking status, body mass index. In health, we consider type 2 diabetes, hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, peripheral vascular disease, peripheral arterial disease, coronary heart disease, oophorectomy, hysterectomy status, systolic and diastolic blood pressure. In demographical variable, we consider age category at first HRT and birth cohort. In medication, we considered HRT estrogen only, and estrogen and progesterone, which is also termed as combined HRT, and antihypertensive drugs. Patients with complete information for all of these coverages, we selected for full case analysis. And our final module included interaction of smoking with BMI and type 2 diabetes. So this flowchart shows the selection of complete cases who have complete records. So as you already know, the number of cases and controls. Among those, we selected out the patients with missing records of BMI, smoking, and Townsend. And after that, we got 87,256 cases and 132,679 controls. But after selecting the complete records, we find some cases who lost their matched controls. So we have to rematch again to get the final data, complete case data file, where we have 52,590 cases and 84,336 controls. So we fit Cox proportional hazard regression model on this data set, and then we applied backward elimination techniques to select the significant variables, and then we test the proportionality of a model. I think you are already aware from previous discussion. So after performing the non-proportional test, which is also called Grimes and Turner test, just please see the rectangle with red marks. So, on age category and birth cohort and smoking, we find that there are significant p-value, that means which indicating the violation of proportionality. So, and as well as the global p-value is less than 0.5, so that means that the module also violating the proportional hazard assumption. So one of the technique of handling the non-proportionality is time splitting. That means different hazards at different time point. So from Schoenfeld residual plots, but we also can examine the violation of the proportional hazard assumptions. As you already know that we have violation of proportionality in age category, birth cohort, and smoking. So the first two plots are to age category, and the second two plots are for birth cohort. If we observe, we see that at nearly 15 years of age, the gradient is changing from negative to positive. That means it's non-zero gradient, since it's the indication of violation, as well as it's changing at near 15 years from negative to positive. So we split the time at 15 years, then again we fit the time splitting Cox proportional hazard model, and then finally we find that the model is fine, it's working fine, there is no violation of proportional hazard assumptions. So here are some results I presented here from our model. So this is first plot representing the hazard ratios and confidence intervals for HRT type, Townsend score, and BMI. So in terms of HRT type, we see that both combined HRT and estrogen-only user has decreased risk of mortality compared to non-user. In terms of Townsend score, we see that there are increased risks of hazard of mortality with the increase in the deprivation of socioeconomic status. And in terms of BMI, the obese people are in greatest hazard of risks of mortality compared to healthy weight, but there is no significant difference between overweight and healthy weight. In first plot 2, I represent the confidence hazard ratios and confidence interval for the coverage which violated the proportional hazard assumption before fitting the time splitting model. So here time 1 represents first 15 years and time 2 represents second 16 years at follow-up. So for age category, we see that both time frame 1 and 2, the age at HRT if increased, the hazard also increased in both time frame. In smoking category, also the ex-smoker and current smoker has increased risk of death, but there are more hazard within the current smoker compared to ex-smoker. But in birth category, in time frame 1, we've seen that there is no significant difference between the cohort 1930-140 and 1940-150 to 50, but at the moment we have no idea why this is happening. But in birth cohort 51 to 60, there is high risk of hazard. But in time 2, we see that the younger birth cohort has less hazard of risk of dying than the older birth cohort. So if we compare the hazard ratios within time frame 1 and time frame 2, we observe that in time frame 2, in all age all coverage and in all level, the hazard is decreased. It may be the advancement of medical science and people are choosing healthy lifestyle than the past. We also plotted baseline hazard function with different parametric distribution. In Cox proportional hazard model doesn't depend on the baseline hazard function as it remains unspecified in the model. But if we know the baseline hazard, then sometimes it is useful to translate the hazard into longevity. So we fitted our baseline hazard in our data to different parametric distribution like Weibull, log logistic, Gumpurge, and gamma. And we see that Weibull fits well with our data since it's just overlapping. The black one is our hazard function in our data So it seems that Weibull fits well. So our future work involves multiple imputation for handling the missing variables, and then we'll do models for imputed data set, and then we will translate our models into actuarial analysis, and next we will do Linemark analysis.
Thank you very much. Questions, please.
This one?
Sort of the two in combination. So just trying to what the takeaway is here. So
First was the previous
what
one.
the takeaway is. So
This one?
Okay.
is it this? Are the ones that aren't HRT? Are they interactions with taking HRT, or are they just adjusting for the other factors in the model? So the Townsend score is just saying people in more deprived areas have higher all-cause mortality, and we're going to control for that, etc., etc. Or is that telling me that the effect of HRT on somebody in a more deprived area is bigger?
It's actually after adjusting for all the variables. After adjusting the variables.
So it's not an interaction.
We checked for interactions, but we didn't find.
Yeah, we didn't find any
interactions.
interaction within the H category and Townsend.
So everything below
It's
the
independent, yeah.
Yeah, everything below the HRT row is saying we've controlled for all these things and it looks sensible. And so the main headline is the 93% effect on all-cause mortality from HRT, and it doesn't matter which type you had.
At the moment, yes, this seems to be conclusion that HRT is good for you, and yeah, it doesn't seem to matter which type of HRT, which is kind of strange, because we saw effect on breast cancer, and there is certainly an effect on breast cancer which is worse for combined HRT, but this effect on morbidity doesn't seem to translate into effect on mortality.
Actually, could you just return to that slide? Because it would be good to see that slide in the context of the 93%. Could you return to the
breast
morbidity
cancer, yeah.
Breast
slide?
cancer one, okay.
I thought it covered a range of morbidities, actually.
Oh, not breast cancer, overall morbidity, yeah. Fourth quote, yeah.
Overall.
The first, yeah.
the-
The
okay.
first part.
At the
Yeah,
top,
yeah.
there was one that went down. This one.
Yeah. This is unadjusted. That is, we didn't include all other variables in the model. We just considered the event of like peripheral vascular disease or osteoporosis or some other conditions.
Basically, it looks like HRT is bad for cancer, but it is good for cardiovascular disease. And perhaps effect on mortality is due to that.
But you'd really want to see this on an adjusted model rather than...
Yes, we do want adjusted model for morbidity, but we don't have it yet. But at least our hypothesis is that advantages to survival is to do with good cardiovascular effects. Other questions, please? Yes?
On the second forest plot, what's the meaning of the age category?
Age category is a category when they started taking HRT.
So does
Some
it
people start, for instance, taking it very late, so we believe it's not for ovulate and menopause systems, but it may be to do with osteoporosis, for instance. Maybe they're prescribed it just because they have osteoporosis.
all right? So there's an increased rate of death compared with the people who started taking it earlier. That's the meaning of that.
Age category, yes, we are comparing all other start of taking HRT to the first youngest group.
Thank you.
Sorry, that's age which you started.
At first HRT.
I see, sorry, I misunderstood. So in answer to the earlier question, I thought that was just age. No, older people
Yeah.
have got higher overall mortality, and that's what you'd expect to see. So it's slightly confused me, now this seems to be an effect of age at which you started.
I think it is age of HRT. It's not older people. It's age at first prescription of HRT. So basically it looks like HRT is not good for you when prescribed first time in later ages. And actually this is a conclusion of quite a few medical papers we read as well, that if you want to take up HRT, better take it up to start with, not when you're 70, basically.
So where's age in this model then? Is that just in the baseline? Something, you know, because the all-cause mortality is going up with age.
Yes, but this age effect is not about all-cause mortality. This is comparing people of the same age who are just prescribed HRT, say at age 61 to 65. So all these hazard ratios are comparing people of the same age with and without new HRT prescription.
Right, so does this invalidate the 93%? Because you've got a distribution of people, you know, the reference group is the lowest group here, so there's going to be some distribution of starting age, which is older than the youngest group, and therefore don't we need to, does it seem to invalidate the 93%?
Oh, sorry, maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe I'm wrong now when I'm thinking of it. Let's go back to that one. No, I probably am wrong, because I thought it was a fact of HRT, but actually we are comparing people who were prescribed HRT at later age to people who were prescribed HRT at earlier age. We are not comparing. Yeah, you're right.
So, well, does that 0.93 apply to the youngest age group?
No, this 9.3 applies just to overall effect of HRT. And sorry, I'm completely wrong. Okay. When I was talking about that second plot, I misinterpreted effect. So this one tells you about overall effect of HRT, and that overall effect seems to be beneficial. And this is effect after adjusting for various ages of first prescription and after adjusting for various existing morbidities and whatnot, social economic deprivation. So overall effect of HRT seems to be beneficial. Yes, sorry about this. It was a long day. Ask the questions, please. Yes? What? You don't have any other questions, I can't believe it. No? Okay. So shall we then thank the presenter? Thank you.